Hello students, this is the first video on the muscular system, and so in this first video we're going to talk about the structure of muscles. So you should be looking at this diagram in your digital notes, and this is looking at the anatomy of a muscle. Now, the way your muscles are organized are very similar to your bones. Remember, in a compact bone, when you have the different osteons or those concentric circles that are built of layers within layers, the muscles are very similar to that. And so this picture kind of shows you each individual bundle of muscles as you get smaller and smaller, kind of like the concentric rings of the osteon. So it's kind of like they have those toys from a long time ago where you have a nesting doll or an egg and you open it up and there's a smaller egg inside, and you open that and there's a smaller, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, similar to that. So this number one, or this whole thing, is called a muscle. Okay, and so this is an arm from one of the models we have. But you see the red are the different muscles. So this whole thing right here is your biceps muscle. The outer layer of that muscle is called the epimysium, and we'll look at those in just a minute separately. Then number two is when you're looking, and you can actually see it on the inside here. Get a pencil. You can see the different bundles of the muscles all together. Each individual bundle is called a fascicle. That's number two on your diagram. Fascicle is how you say that. It's kind of like if you grab a bunch of Twizzlers and clump them together, hold them together in a clump, then each individual Twizzler would be the fascicle. So this diagram right here, when you pull out one fascicle, that's what we're looking at here. That is covered by connective tissue called the perimysium. So drag that one over there. The fascicle then is made up of smaller bundles called muscle fibers. That's what this one is, muscle fiber. And it is covered by a special connective tissue called the endomysium. So we have three different layers that keep all the clumps together, to use non-anatomy words. You have epimysium first, then perimysium, and then endomysium. These will make sense on the other diagram. Then if you look at a muscle fiber and pull it apart, and it's made up of even smaller fibers that are called myofibrils. So notice they're getting smaller and smaller. Anytime you see the word M or the root word MY or MYO, that means muscle. Then when you get smaller, and we'll look more at this in another diagram, each myofibril is made up of these repeating units that number 7 is showing you. Remember, when you see this bracket, it's talking about everything within that area. And those are called sarcomeres. Sarcomere. It's the repeating bundle that is basically the functional unit of a muscle. And we'll talk about how those work in the next video. But here it is enlarged. And you can't, sorry, these words are covering it up. But this whole thing right here is the sarcomere. And it's made up of alternating bands of muscle tissue. And these are microscopic. You can't see these just by looking at the muscle. Of thin filaments and thick filaments. The thick filaments are these here in the middle. Number 9 is pointing to it. Thick filaments is called myosin. Myosin. The thin filaments, number 10, those are called actin. A-C-T-I-N, actin. And I recommend that when I'm saying these words, that just repeat them to yourself so you can get it in there. Research shows that saying it and hearing it helps you remember it better. So I encourage you to repeat these words after I say them. And then again, 11 is just pointing to the myofilament. These are the myofilaments, which make up the sarcomere. There's a lot of other structures in the sarcomere. We're not going to really worry about labeling them. Actin and myosin are the two main things I want you to know about, because we'll talk about them in the next video on physiology. So just think about those eggs I was talking about when you have big to small to small to small. As you go down deeper into the muscle, they're made up of their own bundle with its own connective tissue layer, and that keeps all the smaller bundles inside. So that is the anatomy of a muscle. If you think about eating chicken, and whatever piece of meat you're eating the muscle of the chicken. When you eat any kind of meat, you're eating the muscle of the animal. And so think about, or look the next time you eat meat, you can see the individual fibers. What you're seeing are these muscle fibers right here. You're looking at this level of the anatomy of a muscle. When you eat a large muscle and it comes apart in a couple of pieces or whatever, you're eating, you're getting down to this level here. But when you see the individual fibers on the meat that you're eating, you're seeing the muscle fibers here at this point. Once you get down here, these are all microscopic and you can't see those. But if you could pick apart, when you tease apart each one of those muscle fibers, look at them under the microscope, you would see this. So this diagram is just a review of those three membranes that I mentioned. And so it tells you here membranes allow the muscle fibers to slide without building up friction. That's why we have these three different membranes, and that's unique to muscle tissue. And when I say slide, this will make more sense in the next video. The outermost one, as we mentioned before, is called the epimysium. It covers the whole muscle. Then remember, the inner one that covers the fascicle is called the perimysium. Perimysium. And the one that covers inside an individual muscle fiber, again, the pieces that you tease out that you can see when you're eating meat, that's the endomysium. These prefixes, epi, peri, and endo, if you know what those mean, that'll help you with the definition of that. So under this portion of your notes, you're going to write here what those words, prefixes, mean. So epi, again, means over. It's covering the whole thing. It's over the whole entire muscle structure. The word peri means surrounding or around, like the perimeter. When you're studying geometry and you're calculating the perimeter of an object, you're doing the surrounding lengths or whatever. So perimysium is the surrounding fascicle, and then endo means within, because you're getting deeper inside that third layer of level of organization as you're getting smaller. All right, this ends video 1 on muscle anatomy. In video 2, we'll look at how muscles actually work. See you then.